Oh, hey.
Hello.
How's it going,
How
Anna?
are you doing?
Yeah, good. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, no, I can hear you okay. Can you hear me?
Yep, all good.
Yeah. Okay, lovely. All right then. So yeah, it's going to be session 5 out of 6 today.
Yep.
So it's going to be our last session where we really kind of focus on changes that you can make and ways to implement those changes.
Okay.
As the next session, which will be our final session,
Yeah.
will be more of a chance to reflect on the progress that you've made over the last 5 weeks and to also come up with a bit of a plan of how you can keep building upon these changes independently.
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of what to expect from today, we'll start off by having a catch up and reflecting on how you got on with the homework exercise, which was to kind of set those daily manageable goals. And then we'll continue to kind of focus on and talk about what changes we can make to ensure that you're able to follow your kind of diary and work on those bigger goals to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you have any questions before we get started?
No, no questions.
Okay. All right then. So I suppose, yeah, generally, how have you been feeling since we spoke last Wednesday?
Yesterday has been also another up and down and then back up again.
Okay.
Usually following on from our conversations, I tend to be kind of reinvigorated, just woken up a little bit, shaken up and given another opportunity to just like address the things I need to address. And then in typical fashion, I'm not able to sustain that for the subsequent days. So it tends to last for just a couple of days. And then towards the end of the week, because our appointments are on Wednesday, towards the end of the week, I've again kind of relaxed too much. And it's the same in week 3 as well. I'm looking at my diary and it seems like I have these dips where, and I guess it plays in because you're advocating setting these daily tasks and these goals and having it broken down from a weekly one and maybe a monthly one, and you have a greater goal and then you break it down into smaller chunks, and that's all well and good, but I'm still so avoidant and procrastinating on even applying these techniques when it comes to the areas that I really ought to be focusing on. That I say to myself that I want to do this, but evidently I'm scared and I put it off. And so I'm aware that I have avoidance issues when it comes to particular subjects. And my main one at the moment that I've decided to work on is dance tutoring, right? So I want to start creating various workshops to start off with.
Okay.
And I have been working quite a lot to create structure and bringing in concepts and influences from other places and injecting my own experiences, and so trying to create a curriculum, so to speak, through the form of workshops that I can launch with. So far there's no deadline assigned. So far there are no weekly or daily goals. The place that I've gotten to is just yesterday. I finally managed to identify my first like 5 workshops that I could launch with, and that's a good number. It's not too many, it's not too few. But in terms of actually having it as a, I don't know, more reliable, ongoing routine to address certain goals and have them as like daily things to achieve, I haven't implemented that yet. But I know I need to be more productive and to hopefully stave off those dips in my mood, because if I stick to it, then at least it helps me. Because like we discussed before, in the morning, setting up a healthy routine of habits in the morning kind of sets you up for the day. And as long as every day you manage to do those little things in the morning, at least if you didn't do anything else, you can pat yourself on the back and give yourself credit, myself, that at least I achieved things that I set out to do. Small as they are, but, something is better than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's coming from a place of months and months and months of doing hardly anything. Really just kind of happening to do a bunch of random tasks only because they are the things that I wind up doing as a consequence of avoiding the things I really need to be doing. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
So there's
All
never
right.
there's a never-ending list of tasks to be done, but I'm implementing more awareness and like self-discipline to just
Mm-hmm.
force myself to focus on this one key area that I want to really like promote and work on. And so right now it's this dance tutoring material.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, it still sounds like you're doing a really good job, and it's normal for that kind of enthusiasm and motivation to waver a little bit towards the end of the week. We do
Yeah.
find a lot of the time that after the initial sessions, people always go away feeling really motivated with a spring in their step,
Yeah.
and it's natural that that will start to kind of waver off a little bit towards the end of the week. But if we know that, it's really helpful to then focus on what can I ensure that I'm going to do on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, if I
Right.
know that that's the days I find particularly hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and kind of almost coming up with a bit of even more of a solid plan for those days, because we know it's going to be more difficult.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there any changes that you could make to your kind of the latter part of your week that you think would help you with feeling a little bit more enthusiastic, or help you stick to these plans that you've created?
I guess what you just said is put more emphasis on those
Mm-hmm.
harder days. So
Yeah.
I first need to actually implement the practice of setting, maybe a monthly goal and then a weekly goal and a daily goal. Whatever fits me better, I need to do
Mm-hmm.
that, chunk things down so that they're bite-sized pieces, and then actually start sticking to that, much like my daily routines, right?
Mm-hmm.
So actually do that, and then put more emphasis on the days that I find particularly tougher. Now, right now they're linked to this midweek call with you, because this seems to kind of wake me up a little bit and bring me back to, okay, let's get shit done kind of thing, a good mentality. So this is like the reset point in my week. But after our sessions, I might have to give myself another reset point. Maybe I make 2 reset points per week, for myself. And then whichever days I feel like I kind of start dipping down. And I guess this is another props to these practices of keeping a daily diary, and then writing down the things that I do and how I feel about them, and basically like just an overall diary of like task keeping and emotion, associations. Then I can see trends where I dip, and then those would be the days that I put more emphasis. And maybe I could cut myself more slack. So as long as something is achievable and I do it, is better than giving myself a harder time for not doing it, especially in light of me knowing that it's a particularly difficult period.
Definitely. And being able to reflect and realize that even though that it was a difficult day, you still managed to do that thing.
Yeah.
That will really help you keep that motivation going.
And momentum, just consistency. That's something that I lack, definitely.
Okay. And I suppose it's always helpful to think about the types of things you're doing depending on the day. If you know towards the end of the week it's particularly hard to get that motivation, maybe setting yourself slightly easier things to do, or things that do require less time or energy, and maybe setting those more difficult, time-consuming tasks for, say, Wednesdays or Thursdays, when you know you're already going to be maybe 10% more motivated. Okay? So kind of playing into your strengths rather than kind of fighting against yourself almost. Work with that momentum.
You're right. You're right. So far I haven't classified my different sets of responsibilities, whether it's self-maintenance or bits and bobs around the house, or work or social life. I haven't kind of categorize them in terms of what I do more easily and what is a real struggle. And so I guess, yeah, just like you said, play to my strengths. So on the days that I find it easier to tackle the biggest, hardest things, slot those biggest, hardest things in there because I'm more likely to do them. And then on the days I start dropping off, yeah, cut myself some slack and just go, well, okay, I don't have to focus 24/7 on my, biggest, hardest, goals because that's so heavy. That's such a pressure every single day. So, yeah, so far I haven't seen it like that. That'll be okay. All right, I'll start thinking about that.
Yeah. Okay. So definitely, I recommend going away and trying to categorize things from maybe easiest to most difficult. Okay. And that might change over time as you get more comfortable with certain things. They might start to become easier, new things come up that become harder. So you can keep kind of adjusting their difficulty level. But I think that would be a really good place to get started at least.
Yeah.
With this new approach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's useful for my general like the way I perceive things as well. Because I know that there's a list that like seems to span forever in terms of all the tasks and duties I need to take care of, right? Everything from short term to long term. And the more I procrastinate on all of it seems to have the same kind of weight, even though that's not true. I know that daily tasks like, cooking a meal and then not waiting all day, like doing the dishes right after I eat, not allowing myself to relax. That's way easier to address, rather than, forcing myself when I'm not in the mood to focus on like really important work stuff.
Yeah.
Where my mind just resists so heavily. So they don't all carry the same weight. So this is useful because then the things that I categorize as easy or easier, then because I will hopefully create habits to actually do them, then they will have less and less weight and gravity to them. And so then they would start dropping off the radar where I'm no longer procrastinating. They're just something that I do, and it takes a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Rather than
so you're able
everything.
to do them a little bit more naturally with more ease.
Yeah.
Rather than that kind of internal battle going on there.
Yeah, because they all carry the same kind of weight, which is just I procrastinate. I don't want to do it right now. So I bunch them all into this big room and I close the door. All of it, I don't want to deal with you anymore right now. And I close the door and everything's bunched in that big room, and it's kind of bursting all the time. Whereas, categorizing them is healthy for my psyche. I think it's probably beneficial in the long term.
Yeah. Okay. So definitely, kind of jot down that you're going to do that. And do you think you'll do that using any of the kind of online things you've been doing, or do you think you'll do it by just pen and paper?
I do like the digital tools. I'm a digital kind of guy. I still haven't taken pen to paper and done it like that and had enough experience to see if that works for me or not. I haven't really given it a chance. I am sticking to my digital forms like ClickUp because it's just so much more feature rich. I can edit it and I can move stuff around and it can, fluctuate between being difficult and being easy, and I can set all sorts of tags and it's easy for me to keep track. Whereas pen and paper, I never have a notepad with me. I have my phone with me. I never have a pen and paper with me. So when a thought does come to my mind, I go to my phone and I write it down or I make a voice note. So, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, definitely using a mode that you feel most comfortable with. But if you find that you're kind of keeping log of it all on kind of line and you're finding it still not really effective, then it never hurts to try out doing things a different way. So by getting a notepad, trying pen and paper, just so you can compare the two. Okay? But maybe to begin with, continue trying to use the online platforms if that sounds like something you feel more comfortable with to begin with.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, just be open to trying pen and paper if you're finding it's not that effective.
What are the main benefits of writing with your hand? Is it more to do with emotional associations to whatever you're writing? Or
So
is it for memory, or?
it can really help with memory, the action of writing things down. Because we don't often write things down, we kind of remember the things we write down a little bit more.
Yeah.
Whereas we're so used to always typing things, it kind of just falls into another thing that we've typed up that day. Okay. And another benefit is also just a little bit of a break from looking at screens. I suppose, not everyone does, but a lot of people spend a lot of time looking at various screens all day. And actually having a bit of a break can also just be quite good for us and our brains. So I suppose, there's various benefits of recording things. But it varies person to person. Some people find it more helpful to write things, other people find it more helpful to type it up.
Or voice notes.
Or voice notes, yeah, definitely. So there's loads of different methods, I suppose. It's just what you feel most comfortable with and what you think you're going to pick up more. Because it's all well and good having a notebook, but if we know we're probably only going to touch it once a week, then it's probably not going to work out for us. And we're better off using, say our phone, for example.
Yeah, I already get the sense that that's my case.
Okay.
That it's all well and good to say I'll give it a go and I'll try it, but already I feel like it's not going to be something that I would carry on with. That's why voice notes really works for me. I found something that works for me. Any thought that comes through my mind, anything that I want to air out and kind of like shed some light on it, just speak out loud, listen to myself talk it through as if I was having a conversation with someone else who's giving their insight and stuff like that, guiding, inspiring. It works for me. Whereas writing it down, it could have the same effect, but I just wouldn't do it. I just can't be bothered. I find it tedious, and I'm not like that comfortable with writing. I haven't written since I was in school. Like people don't tend to these days. So it feels a bit jarring.
Yeah, and that's absolutely fine. Yeah, it's just down to personal preference. Okay then, and I suppose in terms of over the last week, we kind of spoke about at the beginning of the day wanting to plan out what you plan to do that day. Can you remember roughly how long you spent in that planning process?
I haven't done that.
Okay, you haven't.
No, I haven't done that. I've failed in that too. Seriously, I'm just taking like baby steps, but it really is mind over matter. So I'm still aware that I need to implement these concepts and at least try them out, see if it works for me. I need to give them a go and be more self-disciplined in applying these techniques. So it's something I need to do for myself, and I need to just, actually start doing that, see how it goes. I'm not rejecting anything. I'm not making excuses. I'm just being completely honest. I haven't gotten around to applying these techniques. But it's something I do intend to do because I see the benefit. I don't see any cons. I'm not fooling myself. I'm not trying to excuse them. I think they will be of benefit. I'm just so, stuck in my ways. So I intend to implement these measures.
Okay. Because it seems on the days that you do them, you notice the benefits, but habits are really hard to break. There will be days where they feel easier, and there will be days when we're really resisting it and falling into old habits. That's part of the process. That's to be expected. If it was all smooth sailing, then I would be quite surprised. But I suppose last week we spoke about kind of trying to get out of the house each day. Not for long, but just to try and kind of reset your thought process.
Yeah.
How did you get on with doing that?
Yeah, I've been doing that.
Okay. And how have you found it?
It's good. I like it. It ticks all the boxes that I thought it would. I'm still finding myself resisting a little bit because as I said, consistency and routine are very alien to me,
Hmm.
and I will resist against those initially. So,
Okay.
but it's more like it's a process where I decide that I want to implement a new habit, and I
Hmm.
know it's going to be a struggle, and I know that I can be flexible on it because it's not, no one's going to die. It's only for me. No one's depending on it but me.
Hmm.
So it's not like, do or die. But still, it's a decision that I've made for myself, only for myself.
Hmm.
And to commit to it means I'm committing to myself. And if I was to do anything in life, it's to do things for my own benefit, right?
Yeah.
And that demands a lot of respect and attention. So baby steps again, but I am implementing those little steps. So I've
Hmm.
decided to go out for a little walk, just get out the house a bit. I'm not doing it every single day. Sometimes I go later out. I don't go out first thing in the morning. Sometimes there are
Okay.
other priorities. But generally, yeah, I've actually successfully maintained um, that habit of just getting out the house. Even in the rain, I don't mind. I take an umbrella. I just walk slowly. I'm wrapped
Okay.
up. I've got clothes on. It's all good.
Yeah. Okay. And how does it feel to be able to reflect and say that you've done that most of the days over the last week?
Uh it's early days because there is still quite a bit of resistance.
Hmm.
Um, I don't feel like it's enough time for me to say it's now a new habit. It's still an
Hmm.
ongoing like reminder of myself, but I like that I'm on this trajectory. And
Yeah.
before this point, I'd never even considered it. And
Hmm.
now I see and I feel the slight benefits every time. Every time I come back home after a little break, I just feel a bit reset. It's nice.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And have you made a note of that anywhere? Is there anywhere where you can tick off when you've gone for your daily walk, or any way that you can reward yourself for that?
Uh, no, I've just been putting it in the diary, but I don't tend to go back that often and refer to this diary, even though I've been. I don't know if you have the link in front of you, but I've been highlighting certain moments of import. So I have those to go back as reference.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. But yeah, definitely. I think we spoke on it briefly last session to acknowledge the kind of
The
things that you've
wins.
done and the things that you've achieved, no
Mm,
matter how big or small.
mm,
Okay. So yeah, whatever that looks like to you, whether it's going back and making it green to show that you've completed it or ticking it off, I would definitely do that, and try to do that for as many activities or tasks as possible.
mm.
Okay. Because that can just be really good reinforcement. If we can look back at our week and see that maybe 50% of it is green, that's a really good start. Okay, and then over the weeks we can maybe see that 70% of it's green and 75% say. Um, and that will help us get that perspective that, okay, maybe we haven't done everything, but we've done the majority of things we wanted to do.
You, yes, yes, you are right.
Yeah.
Remember when I mentioned before about a concept called gamification?
Yes, remind me though. I remember you mentioned it and I now can't quite remember what it was that the definition is.
It it's a concept where you take the things that work in games, right? Say you have a role player game, an RPG,
Mm-hmm.
right? You build this avatar, you build this character, and you play all these games and challenges. And as you overcome your challenges, you get rewards and stuff. Game mechanics, right? It all
Mm-hmm.
helps with appeasing our ego and having growth, having a sense of growth and achievement and
Mm-hmm.
reward, and you get all these benefits and you
Mm-hmm.
unlock certain things. So there's a lot of really like key mechanisms that games have designed that could be applied to our actual daily lives, not just in a fictitious game. So you take the same mechanics, but you instead use a task manager, right? So I use ClickUp. I can set recurring tasks. I can set them to be daily, weekly, whatever, and I can put them in a certain category. So I say, okay, well, for the week, if I say I've got a category for health, I've got a category for work, I've got a category for like domestic maintenance, whatever it is, and I start creating all these tiny little tasks all throughout, daily, weekly, associated with those categories. Then the ones that I achieve, I tick off, and it counts towards the end, goal. And I can create different graphs and charts and any kind of visual way to symbolize the progress. And so it kind of works in the same way as Duolingo has a very successful mechanic, which is daily streaks.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm familiar.
And I think, without doing any research, I've got a few friends who do Duolingo and I'm on it as well. If anything, the bare minimum it requires me to do, and it incentivizes with these streaks, is just going on Duolingo and doing one lesson every day at the bare minimum. And so it sets a positive habit. And I'm still in the beginning process of Duolingo, but I don't want to lose that streak. And it's got this feeling of gamification, because it is a real life daily task for me to go in and do a lesson that I would normally feel like, it's something else that I procrastinate on. It's something else that, I'll do it later. And not now. It's not convenient now. But it's the same. Like all of these tasks, they all require our attention, and we generally try and procrastinate over them. But if it's a matter of, don't worry, it's just a tiny little thing, but doing it every day is more important. So keeping that streak is more important than the little task itself, right? So that's why it's really useful to use digital software like task trackers, right? Task managers, but do it and set it up in a way that you use these ways of gamification, so that at the end you see your progress and you can see what you didn't achieve and what you did achieve. And so I will have a tendency, I think we all have a tendency, to always show our best side. So we always want to log good behavior, and we don't want to log our bad behavior. We don't want to prove that we failed on certain things, even if they're tiny. But it does help give an authentic, truthful image of what's been going on, so that because the process is partly to just be honest with ourselves, because it's all data, it's all truthful data that we can reflect upon and go, what happened there? How did you feel about that? Well, do you want that to happen again? No? Okay, well, more incentive to do something about it. But you need tracking. So I think leveraging all of these mechanisms using technology and influences from games, I think it can all be implemented in a clever way. Whatever works for different people. Like I said, I'm not very old school. I'm more, techie. So this kind of stuff really tickles me, because it brings out my nerd, and I want to start implementing it. But I'm also aware that I can spend a great deal of time in the conceptual stage, in the planning stage. I can strategize and I can implement all this new tech and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's more important to consistently implement it so I don't lose my streaks.
Yeah. So I was going to say, it sounds like you've got so many great ideas there, but it's important not to get kind of bogged down in the process of making everything perfect or making everything really synced up. What's more important is just doing things consistently. So definitely spend a bit of time playing around and seeing how you can make it more appealing, how you can reward yourself and get that accurate data.
Mm-hmm.
But once you feel like you've done that, then move on to the doing stage
Yeah.
rather than just the planning stage.
I,
Okay, and I would definitely be conscious of how long you spend doing that.
I,
Whether you
me
want to
too.
set a timer on your phone of an hour or 2 hours, or give yourself a day to do it. Because it is something that I'm sure can be tweaked and tweaked.
Forever, yeah.
For many, yeah, because there's always going to be new ideas.
Always.
Okay, but for the beginning, just get a basic template or basic way that works for you, and then just get started with following it. Okay.
Minimal viable product.
Pardon?
The minimal or minimum viable product.
Yeah.
The MVP, but it's another acronym. Is
Okay.
something that
one that works.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep that in my mind because I've read different books about productivity and about efficiency and about work and success and stuff. And one of the things that they say is no matter how grandiose your ideas may be, you might be thinking, oh, this is going to change the world. It always comes back to you've got to launch. And the sooner you do that, the better, because then you can test and apply feedback and tweak, and you can always, improve things. But you've got to just launch. So in order to do that, you've got to think about the minimal viable product. So the very least that you can launch with straight away. And then you can keep that as the baseline, as the foundation rather. And then you can always build on that consistent foundation. But my archetype is definitely to just run away with myself with the creative master plan, and give myself an excuse to delay the launch. Inevitably, maybe it never launches. That's the trend that I've got.
Yeah. Okay. So definitely being conscious of that, and I think setting yourself a time limit or a specific amount of time you want to spend in that planning process will be helpful for containing that. Okay. Because once you get started, that's when you might realize what's not working, and that's when you can make the changes. But it's difficult to anticipate how successful something's going to be or how effective it is if we've never actually managed to follow that plan for at least a week. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's the real life obstacles that we often don't really plan for, and they more come about through putting things into practice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's pushing against my comfort zone. I think that is huge for me, and most people, I imagine. So there are always going to be things I need to do, right? And I can be very diligent in putting together a daily list of tasks, weekly, monthly, whatever it is. And I can start trying to really force myself to go through them. But if I prioritize the most difficult ones in the days that I've assigned, like I can manage that. Say it's having this concept where I'm creating a system, and I'm like, all right, great, I'm getting all nerdy about it. I'm going to make it as best as I could. I would say, hold up, before you get into that and spend all day like obsessing over it. You can't, like, having a timer on it is good, but I would say that timer should be dedicated to, okay, well, whatever this project is ahead of you, what's the minimum viable product? What's the MVP of that, right? For you to launch. And the thing that's hardest for me is it always stops when it reaches the point of I need to put myself out there. I need to push myself past my comfort zone and like give in to my fear and put myself out there. Launch. It can be anything, but that's it. That's at the crux of it. So whatever big the project is, I go, I need to do that first. Even if it's a tiny little thing, I need to do that hardest thing first, right? That's what the timer is. I've got a deadline on doing that, and I must do that before I can progress on any of the theory, that I want to start implementing, right? I am hungry to start like using my mind, using my creativity, and like putting all together this plan and strategizing. I'm hungry for that. But I've got to say, well, that's my strength, right? But I need to focus on my weakness first, get that out the way, create that daily, like, ticking off the list. and it's all going to be prioritizing the things that I struggle with the most, right?
Yeah.
Get that done, and then as a reward, I can do the, the more like inspired stuff. I think that will work for me.
That's what I was going to say, yeah. Use it as a reward.
Yeah.
So that's what you get to use in your free time, which is actually often more satisfying when we don't have that guilt hanging over us.
Oh.
We've already done those things
Oh.
that day. We can freely explore it, create, really get lost in that process, but not before we've done the more kind of necessary things, I suppose.
Yeah. I could really do with instilling these habits of like self-regulation, because I find like the most successful people, they're able to do that the most. Life's,
and that's just due to practice. Some of it is kind of instilled naturally, but a lot of that is due to practice
and hard work. Like they're fighting against their own preferences as well, but they've decided to do a certain course of action, and they're doing it only for themselves, and they're determined, and they actually manage it on a daily basis. So I admire that, and I want that for myself.
Yeah, so you know what you're working towards now. It's just kind of breaking it down into smaller chunks.
Yeah.
So to work towards that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Mark. Well, yeah, thank you so much for going through everything today. Hopefully that's been helpful. There's a few things that you can put into practice this week.
Yeah.
And yeah, just be kind to yourself. Remember that patience is key with all of this. But yeah, just keep tracking the things you're doing. Okay, the good and the bad. So we've got more things or more data, I suppose, to work with.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I don't log the bad. I've been keeping them blank.
The areas that we need to focus on, because we don't need to make loads of changes to the things you're doing well. It's the things that you're struggling with, which is what we want to help you with.
Yeah.
Okay. All right then. But yeah, I suppose, how do you feel about next week being the last session?
It's gone by pretty quickly, but overall, I'm very happy about the trajectory that I've started on.
Okay.
It was really imperative, like so important for me to actually create change, positive change. Whether that's long lasting, who knows? But to go from like being stuck, and having a self-fulfilling prophecy going on, I want to flip that and have a point where I can look back in my past and go, that's the point that it all changed for me. And it's starting with reaching out to CBT and starting to implement these practices, making voice notes, talking with people, getting guided, implementing different strategies. It's all stemming from the first conversation that we had. It's just, and that ties into a decision that I made for myself. So I just got to ride that out. It's all significant.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, change is hard, but it can be really worthwhile. And it seems like you're already kind of made quite a lot of progress from where we were in that first session, and we'll reflect more on that next week to really help you see that and acknowledge that. Okay.
What I'm going to do is, I know you got to go, but I'm going to, so my friend who recommended I get onto and use the government to find CBT, right? I haven't been, but I will now, like going forward, keep in touch with him, because he's really curious about my progression, and he is encouraging and supporting me to better myself. So yeah, even though my sessions with you are going to come to a close, I will continue having conversations with him, and I think that will be like a nice proxy or something.
Yeah, it's always nice to have somebody else giving us that encouragement, or just to bounce ideas off of. Whether they're friend, family, colleague, definitely, roping in as many people as you can to help you kind of hold you accountable, keep kind of motivating you is a really good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, throughout all of this. Yeah. All right then, Mark. Well, I hope you have a good rest of your week.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
And yeah, I'll give you a call at the same time next Wednesday on Teams.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
All right then.
All right.
All right. Bye, Mark.
Thank you. Cheers, Anna.
You're
Bye-bye.
welcome. Bye.